Well, hello dear. This is the second part of section 1.1 notes, and we're continuing on with some examples of solving using your graphing calculator. So this first example says, solve the equation algebraically, confirm graphically. So the first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to solve both of these equations, and then I'll show you how to use your graphing calculator. So you will need that if you don't have it already out. So let's look at this first one. Let's get it set equal to 0. Add 2v squared to both sides so that you get your v's on one side. And then we've got 3v squared minus 5 equals 8. Notice there's no linear term. So I'm just going to move the 5 over to the right hand side, divide by 3, and take the square root. So it's pretty easy here. So when I divide by 3, I'll get v squared equals 13 over 3. Then in order to undo the square, I just take the square root of each side. So I end up with v equaling positive or negative square root of 13 over 3. Yes, you can rationalize and so on and so forth, but let's just go ahead and find the decimal for that because we're going to be confirming using our graphing calculator. So that's approximately positive or negative 2.08. Now on this one, this has got the square root on it. So in order to solve this algebraically, we're going to move the x to the other side to isolate that square root. Then to undo a square root, you square both sides. So I'm going to square both sides, and the squaring and the square rooting undo each other. And I've got 1 minus x quantity squared. Remember to FOIL this out and don't forget the middle child. So we're going to have x equals 1 minus 2x plus x squared. Now we have a quadratic, and in order to solve the quadratic, you always set it equal to 0. So I'm going to minus x from both sides. I end up with 0 equals x squared minus 3x plus 1. Does it factor? No. That's such a shame. So we're going to have to use the quadratic formula. A equals 1, b equal negative 3, c equal 1, plug and chug. So we end up with 3 plus or minus b squared, which is 9, minus 4ac, 4 times 1 times 1. When we crank that out, we end up with 3 plus or minus square root of 5 over 2. Now when we first started out, we have a square root here, and so we have to really check our answers carefully to make sure we're going to get the right one. If I put in 3 plus the square root of 5, well, 3 plus, let's just say 2 is 5. 5 over 2 is 2.5. If I try to plug that into this equation, it's not going to work. So I am going to say that the 3 plus square root of 5 doesn't work. Just remember, when you're dealing with a square root equation, check both solutions. If you check both solutions in this case, the only one that works is the 3 minus the square root of 5 divided by 2, which is approximately 0.382. Alrighty? So let's go ahead and confirm this graphically. So we started out with v squared minus 5 equals 8 minus 2v squared. I know your book wants you to get it set equal to 0, then find the zeros, arrow to the left, enter, arrow to the right. It's a lot of extra steps that you just don't need. All I want you to do in order to confirm graphically is find the intersection. I think that's the easiest way to solve the problems using the graphing calculator. So on the left hand side, we'll put that in for y1. Right hand side, put that in for y2. And this is what your screen would look like on your graphing calculator. I always go and start with the standard screen. So I go to zoom and then pick number 6 for standard, and then your graph pops up. You can see it intersects here and here. So to find that intersection, you go second to the trace button, which takes you to the calculate menu, and you pick number 5. Arrow close to one of the intersections, and then it'll say first curve, and you'll have a thing blinking here. You'll do enter, 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 and it'll give you the intersection, and it's 2.08, which is what we had. Then do the same process, but when you go to do the other one, remember to arrow to the left. So you do second trace button to take you to the calculate menu, and then arrow to the other intersection. Make sure your cursor is closer to the other intersection. Then hit enter, 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 and you'll get negative 2.081666. So there's your solutions, and you've confirmed that yes, indeed, that you did the thing properly. If we do this one, we're going to put square root of x plus x in for y1 and 1 in for y2. Remember, this gives you a horizontal line. And if I look, the square root function kind of looks like a line. window was already set to standard. If I could like zoom in here so you could kind of see the curve a little bit, but all I need is the intersection, so I don't care about that. I'm just going to go in and do second trace button. Takes me to the calculate menu, hit number 5, and then hit enter, 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 because there's only one intersection, and there indeed it is. And you can see that this keeps going up, 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 so it's only going to cross that line one time. Pretty nifty, isn't it? They didn't have these when I was in high school. Solve the equation graphically, and again, this is how your book likes it. I don't know why they like this method. I say no. Find the intersection. It is much, much easier to find the intersection. So when I look at this guy, I'm going to put this in for y1 and this in for y2. Left-hand side for y1, right-hand side for y2. I don't make any errors in solving. That's what's the beauty of it. And if you don't remember how to get absolute value, that's the math button, then you arrow to the right to num, and then you hit number 1. This is what your screen should look like on your graphing calculator. And then put in your equation. So y equals absolute value 3x minus 2 on the y1, 2 square root x plus 8. Make sure you've got your parentheses there. I'm going to go ahead and hit graph, and there I can see I have 2 intersections, and I just find the other here and here. So one negative, one positive. I'm going to go through and do that second trace button, calculate number 5. Enter, 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 make sure I'm closer to this guy. It gives me negative 1.08, there's 1. And then I do the same thing on this side. First curve, and then I hit enter, enter, enter. Gives me the second intersection, which is 2.86. Also, when you are doing the graphing calculator, remember that the x's are your solution, not the y's. The x's are what you're looking for because you're solving for x. So try to keep that in mind too. Sometimes people get confused about that. So we end up with x is approximately negative 1.082, or x is approximately 2.864. All right, I believe that's it for the notes, and I will see you later.